As the new year approaches, many people are starting to set goals for the coming year. However, many people still struggle to set realistic and achievable goals for themselves and for their company. Well, our guest today is a successful entrepreneur and endurance athlete who thrives on expanding and pushing the boundaries of both his physical and his mental limits. He scaled 2 times the height of Mount Everest in just 36 hours, created a credit platform with over 60,000 users, and is a kick-ass peak performer who is going to give you the most effective techniques to setting and achieving goals. So don't go anywhere. Part 1 of our interview with him is coming up.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy.
Today's guest is Brad Weimert, founder of Easy Pay Direct, avid mountain climber, and endurance athlete. Brad specializes in setting and achieving goals, scaling mountains, and raising money for at-risk youth. If you are struggling to get everything done that you would like, or you want the tips, tricks, and tools to expanding your productivity, then turn your volume up and take notes. Brad is going to give you guys some extra value today.
Brad, thank you very much for joining us today. Man, I've been looking forward to this interview, man. Audience out there, you are in for a treat. I have no idea where this interview is going to go, but I will tell you 2 things. It's going to be entertaining, and you are going to learn from a world-class badass. So, Brad, thank you.
Thanks for having me, Thor. I appreciate it, man.
Man, okay, I got to start with, the 800-pound gorilla in the room. We met, and we really didn't meet I don't think we really even had a conversation up in the mountain. Did we actually talk?
Nope. Quick words as I went by, as it was.
Yes, yeah, he said. You notice that he said, "Hey," he went by. So, Brad was on the Mount Everest challenge that you've heard me speak about here on the show. It was Jesse Itzler had rented out a mountain in Vermont, Stratton Mountain, and the challenge was to climb it 17 times over a 2.5-day period for the equivalent of 29,029 feet, or Mount Everest. Now, Brad shows up, and Brad says, come on, are we going to have a challenge, or are we just going to goof around? Brad decides that he's going to climb this thing twice in the same amount of time. Now, dude, I got up 12 times. Now, I probably could have gotten up about 15, but I realized on Saturday I was just too slow. You were sprinting from the friggin' gondola up to the finish line. Dude, how'd you do it?
Yeah, well, there was some math involved here. I mean, we only had 36 hours of available time to climb. And I'm not sure what you had heard going into it, but what I was told by Mark and Jesse, the 2 organizers, was that each lap was going to take about an hour all in. It was going to take about 50 minutes going up and about 10 minutes coming down.
Yeah. Up was right.
Up was right. Coming down varied kind of wildly. By the way, this came from Mark, who had just finished an Ironman competition, and Jesse, who routinely does endurance stuff. Me, I thought, all right, well, if they can do it in an hour, I can do it in an hour. But my goal was to do it 34 times. And, it sounds like, okay, if I've got 36 available hours, 34 times, great, I can do that. The problem is 2 hours margin is not very big when you factor in, 5 minutes times 35 laps. If you take an extra 5 minutes to stop and go to the bathroom or that 5 minutes kills the 2 hours over the course of 34 laps like that. So it was really down to the wire in terms of how much I could get done and how I could really optimize things. So the entire time the game was anything I had under my control, I needed to optimize. So when you say I was running from the top of the mountain to the gondola or from the base of the gondola back into running up the mountain, you're dead on. I mean, any chance I could get to shave off 30 seconds or a minute per lap, big deal for me.
Yeah, I mean, we're having dinner, and here's this guy running from the gondola back to the finish line. Now, I got to tell you something. I don't know if you actually know this because you were actually working your butt off while we were having dinner and probably a cocktail at that point, but you were catching a lot of shit. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Okay, I didn't think you probably knew this. So there were some haters in the group. Now, you got to understand, there's 150 people that spent anywhere from $3,000 to almost $10,000 to do this challenge. So we're talking some pretty amazing people. But I'm telling you, there were some haters in the group. They're like, what's he trying to prove? Right? I'm just telling you. That's what was some people were saying this. Now, I was not one of them because I saw what you were doing. I'm like, I'm going to find out what that guy's doing and find out how he ticks because my clients can use that. I can use that. But what was interesting was I had no idea why you were doing it. I just, look, endurance athletes sometimes have a screw loose, right? We all have like this little like DNA like screw up. I actually signed up to do an Ironman this year. 2018, my challenge is going to be an Ironman. Dude, I don't swim, really, okay? I've never done a marathon.
Perfect. That's
yeah, exactly.
Awesome,
perfect. I'm in great company with all the other folks. But I'm going to figure out how to do it. So when I saw you doing this, the challenge was twice. I just assumed, right, that, okay, here's just an endurance athlete that once wasn't going to be enough. He wanted to do it twice, but that wasn't your motivation here. You were actually doing this for charity. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so, I think you hit on a couple big things there. One is that you're always going to have people that say that stuff, and it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I should probably not preface it this way, but I'm going to anyway because it sheds a lot of light on my character and my belief system. And I don't believe in altruism. I don't think that anybody does anything for anybody else. At the end of the day, you're doing it because if nothing else, it makes you feel good. So, for me doing this, I had something to prove to myself. I wanted to see what I was capable of, and I wanted to push the limits of myself. But part of it, a big part of it, was that I also wanted to raise money for a nonprofit called Explore Austin. And Explore Austin takes groups of underprivileged kids on adventure trips and teaches them life skills, team building, goal setting through adventure trips. And that is very, very close to home for me. Had I not had mentorship at pivotal points in my life, and that goes from age, probably 10 all the way until today. But I've had these kind of pinnacle moments in my life where I've learned a tremendous amount through both mentorship and through experiences like climbing Mount Stratton 34 times in a row. They teach you so much. One, mentorship is its own thing, which is a great part of Explore Austin. But the other big element here is adventure. And anytime you are pushing the limit physically, you open up a different channel emotionally. And when your emotions are high, you learn things fast, and you also build relationships faster. So I think that it's really important that kids get exposed to that kind of stuff. And this can happen through sports or through music or through a whole variety of channels. But a lot of the time, underprivileged kids don't have a chance to get that exposure. So Explore Austin's a great charity that does that stuff in Austin locally, and I'm hoping that as that grows, we'll see that nationwide as well. But that was a big part of the whole thing for me, was raising money for them through the process, and also setting an example so that people could see that and see what's possible.
Well, I love it. I mean, you had such a focus the entire weekend. You had, I remember hearing stories of you coming down the mountain at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, let's go. We've got to get going. I've got the time. And it's like, okay, we just finished climbing up here. Can we just rest for like a minute? We're like, no, we got to get to the bottom. Let's do it. So it was great to see, and I wish I knew that was the motivation behind it, because it would have given me a different story at the time. And I think so often, we can jump to conclusions and wonder why people do certain things, and it's not until we find out the whole story. And I think we really rob ourselves of a real gift here.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that it was I had to make a deliberate choice going into that event. My initial plan was to do 17 laps the first day, 17 the second, and then just rest on the third. But the way that, as you know, they cut the mountain off at 5 p.m. on Saturday, and they only ran the gondola through the night. Or I'm sorry, they only did rides through the night the first night. So I got in this situation where I didn't have any choice except to go 27 hours straight, take a break, and then do the next 8 straight. And what that meant was I wasn't going to get a chance to be social during the event. And honestly, like you said, you've got a bunch of people that paid a lot to be there. And by the way, both Jesse and Mark attract great people. So the quality of people there, I mean, we had Colin O'Brady holds the record for climbing the the tallest peaks on each of the 7 continents faster than anybody else in the world ever. We had competitive Ironman racers. We had people that had sold companies for hundreds of millions in the group. And we had a really great group. I wanted to be there to connect and socialize and meet people, but I made a choice that was, I'm going to hit this goal. And one of the sacrifices was I didn't have time to do anything else there.
Yeah, and that's what actually screwed me up. There were a couple of things that I walked away with. Like I said, I did not complete the 17, as everybody knows. And part of it was I had 2 conflicting goals. One is I wanted to get up 17 times, and I also wanted to connect with the people that were there. Guess what? They were conflicting at some point, because when I couldn't get to 17, I said, well, if I get to 15 or 16, I won't have a chance to connect with folks. Yeah, I made a decision. Also, trying to climb that mountain 20 pounds more than I should have weighed was also a bad decision. I was just like, man, thinking about carrying 2 dumbbells, 10-pound dumbbells up a mountain 17 times, not a cool idea. So that really, it was a kick in the ass, quite frankly. And it was a kick in the ass that said, hey, get your shit together. Good's not good enough. This is not your standard.
No, and there are 2 things that you said just now. One, the weight thing I have to bring up, because when I was training for this, and I did train for it, I had to. I was wearing a weight vest a lot of the time. So I was running the stairs. I live in a 35-story building, and I was running the stairs in the building over and over and over. So one of the things I did to train was run the stairs 34 times, which took 6 hours. And I wore a 20-pound weight vest to do it. Because I wanted to prep ahead of time. But the other thing that you said, and this ties right into it, is you were forced, the way that this panned out, you were forced to make a decision too late, right? You got confronted with the reality that you only had so much time left, and what were you going to do?
Yeah.
And so you adjusted your goal really late in the game. And one of the largest takeaways from stuff like this for me is you have to set the goal ahead of time, and you have to also look at what the potential failure points are going to be and make those decisions ahead of time. Because if you let yourself make them in the moment, man, like after I had not slept for 40 hours, I'm going to make a different decision than the one that I had made ahead of time if I committed to that one, right?
Yeah. People say all the time, I have no idea what I'm going to do or say when I see Susie. Well, don't wait until you see her. Decide now. Get rid of the stress. Get rid of everything else. Just decide now what's going to, or I think a client's going to be leaving me. All right. If they do, what's going to happen? What are you going to say? What are you going to do? Decide now. And then it's gone. You don't have to deal with it. And you're right. I had 2 conflicting things, and I wasn't fast enough, and I had not prepared ahead of time to say if I was in this situation the Saturday afternoon, what I would do. And, it was a great, like I said on an earlier podcast, I could have gone and gotten the outcome that I wanted, but I didn't get the outcome I wanted, but I got what I needed. And that was a wake-up call and some really good life lessons that, look, you better have one focus, not 2.
I love that. Yeah, and, my moment for that was different but similar in that when we finished Saturday afternoon, Saturday at 5 o'clock, they closed the mountain, and I had been going straight through the night since 2 p.m. on Friday. So I was going, at that point, I had been exercising for 27 hours. I'd been up for, 35 hours or whatever. And I had only done 24 laps. And for me, yes, 24 laps was a lot relative to the goal for most people being 17. But for me, what that meant was I had 8 hours remaining on Sunday, and I had 10 laps to do.
Oof.
And each lap so far had been taking me an hour round trip, actually a little bit more than that through the day on Saturday. So mathematically, to me, that wasn't possible. And so I was, at the time, I was doing some Facebook Lives, and which is all cataloged at everestingx2.com is where all this stuff was cataloged. But I was doing some Facebook Lives, and all these people were like, don't give up, don't quit. And I'm sitting there thinking, first of all, you're sitting on your couch. So, shut up. Secondly, I'm not giving up. Like, mathematically, this doesn't work. Like, it's not like I had 1 or 2 reference points telling me that this thing was going to take an hour each lap. I had 24, right? I was pretty confident that each lap took an hour. And a friend of mine, I had 2 critical people that pushed me. One was this guy Cameron Harold, who is
he's a friend of yours.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine, and he left me. He shot me a bunch of texts. And he left me probably a 5-minute voicemail with 15 different ways that we could potentially make it happen, which included things like, can you just climb it twice in the middle of the night? And can we rent a car? Can I rent a car for you? Can we get a helicopter to fly you down from the top of the mountain? It's all sorts of stuff. And that was inspiring. And the other was a friend, Curtis Christopherson, who is a endurance athlete, owns a chain of supplement stores in Canada, and just a very impressive character. But Curtis sent me a text that said, hey, look, I know that it's been taking you 45 minutes to go up the mountain, but what if you just did it in 30 minutes instead? And that was basically the whole text. And he was like, and then you could do all 8 or all 10 in 8 hours. And I remember thinking, God, what a dick, why would you say that to me? Right. And this is obviously after I haven't slept for 40 hours. But I just totally dismissed the text, got an ice bath, took a shower, ate some food, and then went to sleep in a tent. Right. And by the way, that Saturday night, there's a band playing about 100 yards from the tent. I can literally feel the bass from this Bob Marley cover band shaking me as I sleep. And I'm getting up at 5:45 to go another 8 hours. But I woke up and I thought, all right, I'm going to power down some food. And Mark, the organizer, and I had talked about nutrition the night before. And I was like, I'm going to power down as many calories as I can. And I was still nauseous from the day before and just the whole time, really. But and I was like, I'm just going to push for the first lap. And I went up the first lap, and I did it in 33 minutes. And I finished it, and I was like, man. And by the way, the gondola still wasn't running at that point, so I had to take a car down. But I finished it in 33, and I thought, all right, I can do another like that. I was like, I can't go for 8 hours like this, but I can do one more. And so I did a second one in 32 minutes. And at this point, I'm warmed up, and I'm thinking, all right, at some point here, I'm going to fail. No way I can do this 8 hours, but I did a third. And after the third, I thought, man, I'm moving. I'm moving fast. This is inspiring to me because I'm getting them done quicker. And I go through, and the entire day, I do 30 to 33 minute laps, and I squeeze 10 inside of 8 hours. And the two huge takeaways were, one, in that moment that I had no belief in myself. And like I said, I didn't think it was mathematically possible. It wasn't like I was questioning my ambition or my desire or my commitment. I didn't think that it was mathematically possible to do this.
Right.
And the takeaway there was push anyway. And, run to the finish line anyway. Push as hard as you can and just try to finish. Because the lessons you get out of that, even if you fall short, are going to be stronger than just giving up.
Yeah.
And alongside that was, man, have somebody in your corner. Did I not have Curtis planting the seed and Cameron really pushing the envelope? I don't know. I don't know that I would have done that at all. And then the last major takeaway there was, holy shit. Could I really shave, 30% off my time with anything? Can I do 30% better? I mean, unreal to me.
Yeah.
It just blew me away. And this is me. It blew me away. It was crazy.
Yeah, teamwork actually has become my theme for 2018, and I realize, I don't know if you get caught up in this, is, hey, if it's to be, it's up to me. If there's a wall, I'll take it down. And I realize that that's not the most effective way to do things. After working with the Navy SEALs and doing this event on the mountain, we can accomplish so much more as a team, and I think we get so often, men, masculine guys, get caught up in this, I can do it, and it's worth more if you just do it by yourself. There's a much easier way of doing it, and you get to bring other people along with you.
Yeah, man. It's I'm trying to learn that lesson. I'm learning it over and over and over.
Yeah. I know. It's tough, right? Because we believe in ourselves, and if we can do it, and a lot of times we can do it, but it's amazing how much we can accomplish with the team. Yeah. Now I've got to understand what the secret is, and I understand like you're like this avocado consumer. Are you raising they must be going up in price based on how many you eat. Is that the secret to doing it 2 times? Avocados?
I don't know the answer to that. Avocados, are pretty much the best thing in the world. So they are one of my favorite foods. I don't go a day without eating an avocado, I don't think. Usually it's half of one in the morning. So you asked me for an interesting stat, and that is it's pretty easy to calculate because I am regimented in my half avocado a day. So I don't know, but that's definitely, it's the same breakfast every morning. It's eggs, avocados, spinach, mushrooms, and coffee.
I love it. Well, here's my takeaways so far. Get some avocados and get Cameron on speed dial.
Yep. I'm not sure that he'll love that as the go-to action plan for every entrepreneur, but
it's funny because I just pulled him up on Facebook. I said I'm gonna message him after this. Guess who I just spoke to? That's pretty good. Now you're down in Austin, which is an amazing entrepreneurial hub. You're not involved at Entrepreneurs Organization or YPO at all, are you?
I'm not. Okay. I'm a part of a couple other groups, and I looked at EO down here and YPO, and I've got some friends in both. But no, I'm chosen to be a part of some other things. Okay.
All right. I was just curious because you have a kick-ass company. We could spend the entire time just talking about your athletic prowess and what you were able to accomplish. And actually, I'm going to ask one more question on that end. Dude, you're in phenomenal shape, and for people,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's just a fact. Diet-wise, you told us a little bit about breakfast. Keto, paleo. What's your poison?
Yeah, I've played with a whole bunch of stuff. So I've played with paleo, and I've never gone full tilt keto, but I've considered it. I, by and large, have been relatively low carb, high protein, and high greens, and then quote unquote good fats like avocado, et cetera. Yeah. Okay. And that's been my go-to. And from an endurance perspective, I fuel on sugar, and I have long thought about going the fat adapted route. But I don't do, like the things like the mountain. There are a few of those in my life that I've really said, hey, I'm going to go after this crazy thing and just train and hit it. But it's not like I'm doing endurance athletic stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But most endurance athletes fuel on sugar. And when I say sugar, for anybody that's not an endurance athlete, it's anything that converts to sugar. So it's, carbs, it's packets of goo, et cetera.
Yeah. It was funny, right before the challenge, I interviewed Mark Sisson of, really the godfather of paleo. And I'm like, what do you do on these things? And he gets like a fat ball with seeds in it. I'm like, well, that sounds interesting. Either that or a packet of goo. I'll take the packet of goo.
Yeah. I definitely know there are people that do it. I just don't know many.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is? Send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.
Be on the lookout for part 2 of our conversation with Brad, where he tells us how to align your personal goals with that of your business, in addition to the ideal diet for an endurance athlete. I'll see you guys on the next episode of Peak Performers Podcast.